Hey everyone, Creeper here. So we're talking about Wheen once again. Wheen is gone basically completely mask off, so that's great to know. And of course, Wheen fans, I know you're gonna say, oh, you didn't watch the video, and then you're not gonna watch this video because that's what you always do. And of course, Wheen uses that as an excuse to get no criticism, so thanks. Of course, Wheen basically says that trans women aren't women in this title by putting woman in quotation marks. That's clearly supposed to mean that he does not actually believe that she's a woman. Of course, I know you're gonna play dumb, Wheen, because that's what you always do, but you can't get away with this anymore. Use the I'm dumb and didn't realize act every time you get called out. But it's not gonna work anymore. Not here, at least. Your dumb fans might still think that, but it's not gonna work here. And of course, he basically
I'm not sure. Frankly, I don't watch enough YouTube anymore. I've just been watching documentaries for some reason. They're pretty cool. But basically today, I've got for you guys a topic that I was going to do when it first originally came into fruition about 3 weeks ago. But I decided not to cover the video at the time, and for whatever reason, I'm not exactly sure. I probably was working on something else. But now, I forgot to plan out a video last night, so I fell back on this idea this morning, and, here we are. So guys, as you may know, I am a fairly progressive person. However, oh look at this guy. He's saying that he's progressive and then saying but so then he can, get away with slander. Look at this bigot trying to weasel in his fascist ideologies and shame minority groups.
I mean, you do say that just so that you can't get any criticism in your videos, so good job. Yeah, that's basically exactly what you're doing, except it's not for pushing a fascist idea or whatever. It's just you not wanting to get any form of criticism.
And that's at least the one comment that I see popping up at some point. So I thought I'd say it for them, before that shit happens. And I want to say it's not progressive to set one group back 2 steps just for the sake of getting not even a step in for another. At this point, you might be saying, Wheen, what the fuck are you talking about? You're just rambling again. Dude, shut up. And lads, I'm talking about our counterparts. You may not see them very often, but I assure you that they do exist. I'm talking about, of course, women. There are 2 types of women, cis women and trans women.
There are also like intersex women, but whatever.
Typically in women's activities, we see cis women more, usually because they have more experience in being women.
That's really stupid. No, it's not because they have more experience being women. It's actually just because they make up a larger population of the world. There are more cis women than trans women. It's that simple.
Not because they have, Jesus Christ, I'm walking on eggshells here. I'm gonna level with you guys, and I deeply apologize to those that I may offend. I don't hate you. It's just, this is fucking stupid. A trans woman got nominated for Woman of the Year.
Oh, how awful. A woman got nominated for Woman of the Year. Oh, the horror. The only reason you'd think this would be bad is if you didn't believe trans women were even women.
On paper, this looks like a good thing, from a progressive standpoint, because this is probably the first time a transgender woman has been nominated for this. But, what about the other women? The more you start, peeling off layers, the worse it becomes, and I'm gonna get into that. Just keep in mind, I do love trans people. They are great. However, just because you are trans does not mean you're immune to criticism.
You made a video being mad that she won an award. That's not criticism. Of course, we know that your fans think that you're immune to criticism.
In any way, same falls under every single category of minority group, or majority group, for that matter. I think everybody deserves to be criticized. It's just up to them if they want to take that criticism. I don't feel like we should gatekeep criticism, and the more that we label criticism as, hatred, or bigotry, or anything like that, I think the less that people will actually take the time to self-reflect and improve. Please note that, anything that I say in this video, it's criticism. I'm criticizing the way that people are going about things, not their life choices or whatnot. I always catch a little bit of flack whenever I cover these topics, just because of the nature of the subject matter.
No, you actually catch flack because you have no idea what you're talking about. You literally put woman in quotation marks, implicating that you do not believe she's a woman. But you're going to deny that and play stupid. We all know you will.
And I just cover these topics because they're interesting to me. I see points that I don't see many people pointing out. I know why they're not pointing them out. It's not because they don't see the flaws as well. It's because, nobody's really saying it, and the people that do, get heavily criticized.
The people aren't pointing this out because they're afraid, to be called transphobic. But I'm not transphobic. I just, don't think trans women are women. But people are scared to tell this out. People are scared to speak the truth. Or maybe you're just wrong.
Somebody's probably going to say, oh, well then why aren't you criticizing right-wing beliefs and things that go on? And honestly, it's just because the mainstream media goes over it so much, and I see it all the time on Twitter. I don't feel the need to, go after that stuff. I think we already know all the issues that exist with, the alt-right or whatever the fuck it is. Just wanted to address that. My channel's not a hateful place. I usually just cover the things that I see the least amount of coverage at the time on it.
Then you have not been paying attention to the media whatsoever because there's been a trans panic. Have you not been noticing all the laws passing to oppress trans people? Have you just been locked in your room playing League of Legends?
Whenever I cover a super trendy topic that everybody else is talking about, it just doesn't feel genuine whatsoever, because I'm basically just regurgitating shit that a lot of other people say. And who knows, maybe there is some, underground society of people that are making videos on this topic and I just don't know about them. But you know what, it is what it is. Sorry for the extra long intro. Let's get into this video. So recently, this fine lady known as Leah Thomas got nominated for Woman of the Year by her university, the University of Pennsylvania. And first off, I just wanted to say, and I'm not speaking for any of the ladies out there by any means, how would you feel if you were competing with Leah Thomas for Woman of the Year? I want you to put yourself in the shoes of, a woman that's been a woman since birth, and they're also going to the University of Pennsylvania, and they want to be nominated for Woman of the Year. Like, they're doing their best. And Leah Thomas gets nominated instead of you. I just want you to imagine their knee-jerk reaction.
Whoa, if you don't win an award and end up losing it, you might be a little angry. Oh my gosh, who could have ever seen that coming? Of course, you only have a problem when it's a trans woman doing it, don't you? If it was a really strong cis woman who won, you wouldn't have a problem with it, but once it's a trans person, all of a sudden it's an issue.
Because I'm assuming that their first thought is not going to be, this is so great for, the progressive world, this is phenomenal, I'm so happy for them.
The first thing they think about is probably going to be, dang, I wish I won that award. No matter who won the award, I wish it was me.
First off, I'm going to say that's probably not what's going to happen because, women don't lose very well, but mainly because, what else are they supposed to think? This isn't even an issue of acceptance or tolerance. It's more so that, yes, trans women are women, but when you try to say that they're the best at being women...
Except no one said she's best at being a woman. She just won an award for Woman of the Year that's given out every year. Like, why are you complaining so much, and why do you think that people think she's the best woman?
You're nominating them for Woman of the Year. What are I'm not gonna say actual women, what are cis women supposed to think about that? When cis women can't even be the best at what they're born to do, is that really fair to them?
I believe it's completely fair to have an award for woman and pick a woman to be the winner of that award. Just outright say it. You don't believe trans women are women. Like, don't be a coward. Just say it.
I think this is a great place to bring up the issue of equity versus equality. By letting a trans woman compete in, Woman of the Year, that is equality. However, I'm not a huge believer of equality.
Where would this guy be at during the civil rights movement?
I like to think that I favor equity more because not everybody is meant to do everything. And if they are going to do everything, they're not going to be the best at it. So I feel like there are not necessarily compromises that need to be made. There are certain things that we're going to have to be willing to give or take to keep it fair, as well as not pissing everybody the fuck off. As equality opens up doors for, trans women, it also closes a few, or at least puts a bad taste in the mouth of women.
One, you just once again referred to just cis women as women, once again implying that you don't believe that trans women are women. Also, this is a common thing where people believe if you give rights to a group of people who are oppressed, all of a sudden the people who aren't as oppressed don't have as much rights. Actually, what happens is everyone becomes more equal, and that's actually a good thing. Of course, we know you're anti-equality. Also, ignore the fact I'm not good at pronouncing my R's.
And I think it's safe to say that there are a lot more cis women than trans women.
Exactly. That's why you don't actually see that many trans women in sports. It's not that people have had more experience being women that you said in the beginning of the video.
And to treat them all fairly, I don't think we have to treat them all the same. I think a good example of this is women in special forces, like the United States Special Forces. If they placed a woman into a ranger battalion just for the sake of equality, it wouldn't be fair to all the other people just because of the physical limitations that we can't deny exist between genders. They would probably, most likely, become a burden. And it's along the lines of, it's not fair to a whole group of people just for the sake that, we can...
So are you just anti-women in the military? To be fair, I'm anti-everyone in the military because we need to drastically shrink the size of the military, but still, that's really weird to only single out women. A woman who's in the military could probably beat you up quite easily.
Show equality to this one person. I just think that we need to accept that there are some things in life that we can't do. Mama said that you can be whatever you want when you grow up, and that's just not true. There's a ton of stuff that I'm never going to be able to do, and I just have to live with that, because I know that if I try to insert myself into these positions, it'll just negatively impact people around me, and it's not worth it. In the end, it genuinely is just not worth it. To have a slight bit of victory for myself, but for the sake of a lot of other people, being negatively impacted or suffering, it's overall not worth it for my image and for those other people.
I completely agree. So the people who are cis women who lost to Leah Thompson and are angry, please get over it.
I think that there are a lot of other ways that trans people can go and get their W's other than this, because it really just does negatively impact cis women.
How? You have not explained how it negatively impacts anyone at all.
But also their image to, the people that are already questioning whether or not they, want to accept this kind of thing. The people that you're trying to win over, that you're trying to get to be on your side, it may just turn them against you. Also, the last video that I mentioned Leah Thomas in, there was those of you that were saying that she doesn't have an advantage in sports because HRT makes you weaker and whatnot. I think on the last video, there were people that straight up didn't believe me on the subject, and were just saying shit like, it's fair because of HRT. I've done a decent amount of research into hormones and fitness.
No, you haven't.
Due to my own curiosity. And estrogen is not going to make you some meek, small, kawaii, uwu girl, especially if you were a dude for 18 years, competing in sports and very, very physically fit.
So basically, trans women can't compete because they only started HRT later in life how you're supposed to. Do you want people to start taking it earlier? Because that's not what you're supposed to do.
Even after she started taking HRT, she was still competing, which meant she was still exercising.
This is just a lie.
And muscle's not just gonna fall off of you and deteriorate unless you're literally doing no physical activity, no matter what you're on or who you are. The hormones will make you less strong through a lot of technicalities and make it incredibly difficult to put on more muscle. At least it'll be a lot more difficult than, if you were a guy. But you still retain basically all of your muscle if you're still working out, which in Miss Thomas's case is a lot. She's huge. She doesn't look like Mr. Olympia by any means, but she's 6'1" and has a frame that most guys would be jealous of.
You hear that? Any woman that's tall, you can't compete in sports because you have an unfair advantage. Even though that's what all sports are about. It's all about people being better than other people because of your body's natural abilities.
Her baseline is leagues higher than a good portion of what most women will ever achieve naturally. And I think that's why she was banned from the sport. She set an example that did not make trans women look good in sports.
Yeah, you're right. Even though the right wing wants to make trans women really strong and able to beat everything about cis women, didn't break any records. Shaking my head.
I don't think that she transitioned just to be, in a position where she could win easier. I don't believe that that's a thing. I don't believe that anybody would go to that much work just to win a competition because it's really difficult to go back and it's really expensive as well. It just doesn't seem like something that anybody would do. I just want to throw that out there. But back to the main topic, I feel like it's incredibly important to point out that Leah Thomas has been a transitioned woman for under 2 years, and she's competing with these cis women who, on the topic of simply being a woman, and now I'm not gonna bore you with, what is a woman? But Leah has only been a woman for 2 years and has only experienced, what it's like for probably that long.
Who cares? Doesn't matter how long she's been a woman. All women have different experiences. You could have different experiences even if it's two cis women.
If any longer, probably not that much. And if some chick came into a competition about being a man and was a man for about 2 years, and she said that she had all the experience of a man and was competing as the best man, the most man.
Yay, you basically just admitted that you believe that trans people aren't the gender they identify as. Thank you so much for being so open about your bigotry. And also, it wasn't about being the most manliest man, it was about being Woman of the Year, so those two things aren't even comparable in the first place. We did it. We're finished. I, of course, skipped his outro where he plugs his second channel, whatever, who cares? Of course, I know Wheen fans are gonna not watch this video, so thank you guys for actually watching this video. Wheen fans are just gonna comment down that I didn't watch his video, even though I showed the entire video. Forget it. Except for the fact that he decided to respond already before this video is even out.
You might be thinking at this point, Wheen, if there are allegations that you're transphobic, why don't you just respond to it on your main channel? Well, these don't come from a group of people that are, very respected. These, aren't very serious allegations. They, the basis of their argument revolves around the fact that I used a set of quotation marks. And frankly, all the people involved in the accusing are low cows, so to say.
I love it when he starts off a video with immediately just trying to discredit people by insulting them and saying, oh, they aren't respected, so it doesn't matter. This isn't the first time, so...
People who I don't give a shit about their opinion, frankly. The only reason that I'm even making this video is the fact that I want to make a second channel video. I'm not going to give these people the time of day, and even name them, because they only really make this kind of content for attention.
Just remember that he believes that people criticizing him only do this for attention. Just remember that.
And if I gave them that attention on my main channel, then they would be the only ones winning in this situation. There is nothing serious here that I have to address. I was called transphobic for titling one of my videos Woman of the Year with the woman, the word, being in quotations. And it was a thumbnail of Leah Thomas, the famous, slightly controversial trans athlete. And I believe it gets a point across. The thumbnail and title are both very open to interpretation in several different ways. And I put it that way specifically for clickbait.
Ah, yes. So you did that for attention. So you only care about attention. Interesting. Anyway, yeah, you just admitted that you did in fact do that, and people are criticizing you for that, and your only excuse is that you did it for clickbait, and that's not really an excuse. You still did it. You might want to apologize, maybe not imply that someone's not a woman because they're a trans woman.
I didn't just do it, for the sake of I actually believe that, trans women aren't women or whatever. And if you watch the video, the entire thing, I respect their pronouns the whole time. I refer to them as women, not even in a sarcastic tone, mind you. There's not a single point in that video where I was, openly transphobic.
Except you already admitted that you did it in the title, so you did do it. Just acknowledge that you did it and apologize. It's really not that hard. Of course, you're not going to do that because you want to play dumb. You want to pretend, oh, I didn't know any better, like you always do. Of course, you also like to say, oh, I don't really know much about a topic. Then don't talk about it. It's not that hard. And of course, you want to say, oh, I'm not trying to convince people. Then why make a video? That's exactly what you try to do. You literally even had a debate. What do you think the purpose of a debate is?
The only things that could be taken as transphobic were things taken out of context, which, did happen.
Guess what? It's kind of impossible to take a title of a video out of context. next.
I clickbaited it like that so then transphobic people would click the video thinking that I'm going to validate their opinion, but then hopefully they come out of it with a more neutral stance. Also, so then trans supporters would click it thinking that I was transphobic and come out of it with the same outcome, a neutral stance. And it also appeals to everybody in between because it's just something out of the ordinary.
Except it wasn't really a neutral stance. You kind of implied she wasn't a woman throughout the entire video, and you could actually go look earlier in the video to see that exact stuff.
And I think it's important to point out that, people clickbait, groups all the time, minority groups, whatever the fuck it may be.
That's what we refer to as a whataboutism. Well, what about other people?
I've clickbaited a few of them, and especially the individual accusing in this matter should know that I do this already, because they confronted me on a previous video that I did, on the LGBTQ community. However, now that I am clickbaiting a specific part of the LGBTQ community, now I am transphobic.
Watch the Nakakota debate. She went way too soft on this guy, and yet he still basically backed down, but at the same time was backpedaling the entire debate, and somehow his brain dead fans still agree with him.
Now I am hateful. Now that, one out of the 5 letters is being targeted, it is hateful.
You putting woman in quotation marks is clearly indicating that you don't believe she's a woman. Just admit it and apologize.
And I want to point out that a few of the people that are accusing me of this, not all of them, make videos where they clickbait other people as being racist, homophobic, or, anti-Semitic or whatever. I don't really give a shit.
I have a suspicious feeling he's talking about me. As we all know, he has defended Stone Toss in the past, so it clearly is okay with defending racists.
But the point is that they, clickbait people as being hateful to marginalized groups, which is exactly what I'm doing.
That's actually not what you're doing. What you're doing is clickbaiting, quote unquote, being hateful. So you're pretending to be hateful to get views. Of course, you're defending pretending to be hateful, and you have also defended hateful people in the past, so it's really suspicious.
They're not bad for doing this. They're just trying to get their views in as well. But it's incredibly hypocritical when you point to me and you're like, oh, this is crossing the line. And I've literally made videos about, companies, virtue signaling to black people as well, which in this situation, I was criticizing the University of Pennsylvania. And, in this similar situation, I was criticizing YouTube for their inclusion of the Black Partner Program, where I said that they were basically just virtue signaling and they went about it all wrong. And, on that video, there was not a single comment where somebody was like, you are oppressing us.
Well, it's probably because, unlike your trans video, it's actually a valid thing. If YouTube wanted to actually support equality, they would probably support people being paid fair wages. Of course, that's more of a problem of capitalism. You targeted a college for giving a woman an award and then said, oh, she's not a woman in the title.
This is not okay. You cannot talk about this. You're not black. As a matter of fact, every single person that was in the comments that wrote a, comment longer than a few sentences was in support. There were several people that commented and were like, I'm black and I see this and I think it's cool that you're talking about this, that, you have the ability to talk about this and you're actually saying something, because I see this as, YouTube just being a scummy company and not actually standing up for black people whatsoever. And the reason why I made that video, about Woman of the Year was not because I hate trans women or whatever. I made it very, very clear in that video. It's because the trans community or whatever, or people trying to support the trans community, seem to end up doing a lot of things over and over again.
Oh, the crime of some random woman getting an award for being a woman. Oh, how awful.
That simply make the view of the trans community in the public eye not very favorable.
So because a trans woman won an award about being a woman for a thing, that makes the trans community not look good. You're digging yourself a deeper hole, Wheen.
Which is not good for them. This is constructive criticism that I'm giving out.
Except when you get any form of criticism, you immediately default to, oh, I'm being attacked by Twitter. Oh, I'm a little victim. You're not a victim. You're being called out for your actions.
This is not from a place of malice whatsoever.
Bigotry can be accidental.
And I think it's fucking stupid that you're trying to deflect constructive criticism and you're just trying to enable the people that are tearing down the public image of your community.
It was not good criticism to begin with, and a random trans woman winning an award for being a woman is not destroying the community.
I don't all too much give a shit that you're doing that, but I just think that you need to be aware of the impact that you're having. It's not a good one. Like, it may be immediately positively received by your own community.
This is absolutely hilarious. The person who constantly spews out awful takes and then goes to his community to get, oh, but people agree with me, so I must be correct. That is exactly what you do. Literally exactly what you do.
But when you go out there and, the masses see this, they're not going to praise you for this. Not everything that the trans community does needs to be accepted. Not everything that the trans community does needs to be the good thing to do. We need to criticize everybody equally.
I agree. People should be criticized. Not equally, though, because people are deserving of different levels of criticism depending on the circumstances. I believe you should be getting a lot more criticism because your dumb fans keep on fanboying over you and you immediately go to them to try to defend your position just because they agree with you. We literally see that exact thing in this video when you were talking about your YouTube video.
And I don't see enough criticism, going that way. So I step in.
This man really has no idea what's going on in the outside world if he doesn't think that the trans community is constantly under attack.
And frankly, I do not give a shit that you're pissed off, because there's a surprising percentage more of, trans people or people of the LGBTQ community that, comment and reach out to me and tell me that, they agree with me.
Once again, saying that just because people agree with him, he has to be correct. Except trans people agree with me too, so I must be correct. Except that's not how actual arguments work. You can't just say people agree with me, so I'm good.
And you guys are the vocal minority that I talked about in my notorious gay video. You guys want to debate me so bad. You guys want to ask me questions. But debates in the modern commentary community, nobody's trying to come to an understanding. It's a battle. It's blood sports. You're trying to own the other person. And frankly, that's something that just should not happen. These should be discussions that come to an understanding. And when I went on this debate and, we talked it out, the only reason why we came to an understanding was because I talked to you after the debate. You may market it as something like, oh, it's going to be, a one-on-one debate. We're going to understand each other. You don't give a shit about that. All you want to do is get the own on the other person. You want to find mild inconsistencies in their argument and point that and invalidate everything that they stand for.
This is really funny because Nikokota went so soft on him. Like, she went really soft on him. If he went up against an actual debater who's debated for a while, he would have been so screwed.
It's not a matter of coming to an understanding. It's not a matter of coming to a place of peace. It's a matter of getting internet points. So frankly, shut the fuck up. I'm not going to give you guys the time of day anymore. You can leave your constructive arguments in my DMs, and I will read them over. But I can usually see it when it's constructive criticism versus shaming, guilt-tripping, and just trying to get the upper hand on the other person.
Yeah, if you disagree with him and call him out for his actions, you're just trying to get the upper hand on him.
If I see a comment that's, 3 paragraphs long, I can read the first 2 sentences and see where the argument is going. If it's constructive criticism, I will read it. I will take it to heart.
Except for the fact you ignored all the criticism for you very openly denying someone's gender identity.
But nothing you guys have said to me in the past is constructive criticism. You're just trying to change my views. I have absolutely no respect for that.
So, constructive criticism isn't supposed to change the way you behave?
Everything that you guys have explained to me, I already know, and I've taken it in my own way. You're not trying to get me to respect you or make it so then you can respect me. You're trying to get your stupid little Twitter likes, your YouTube views, and the approval of an audience that thinks you got an own.
As someone who always replies to people disagreeing with him, saying, oh, my audience agrees, so I'm good. This is hilarious. If you enjoyed this video, please do consider liking and subscribing. Creeper out.
Socialism is when the government does stuff. And it's more socialism the more stuff it does. And if it does a real lot of stuff, it's communism.